I think we have seen that the German companies here, and particularly our members, have a wide variety of CSR activities. Parts of these are, on the one hand side, programs which target to develop the team itself, and there we speak about young leadership, women empowerment. And on the other side, we have lots of activities when it comes to environmental protection. We have seen several companies participating in large activities along the Hahn River to collect the bins and all the trash we see there. And also we see companies that focus on environmental protection by supporting bees, saying bees are so important for our nature. They are very hardworking and never enough honored. So this is one part as well. But we also have seen, and we see lots of activities which are there to help disadvantaged communities, villages, regions which perhaps are not so much in the focus. And there we've seen lots of solidarity and activities as well, particularly also with orphanage, children that are disadvantaged, etc. And when we had large problems after when the pandemic first hit Ulsan, I think there was the first case, and there were, or Daegu, there were activities there to help the city and people there. German companies also collected money for these in 2020 when the pandemic started. It was before my time. That's yeah. About 8 years ago, we started the Women in Korea program, WIR, W-I-R, which in German stands for we as a group. And the program is targeted to help particularly women in the middle management position. The experience from the chamber, but also from our member companies, was that many of these young talents are often not enough challenged, not enough taken care of, particularly as there are still many difficulties for them to get the visibility, and also when it comes to founding a family, often they have to take care of their children, interrupt the career, etc. So we thought this is an important point to look on. And in this program, which was a little bit transformed after 7-8 successful years, this program is there. There we have mentors and mentees. We match them, and then they have the one-to-one meetings. They have this exchange, and then they also have regularly meetings in a larger group to have an exchange. And for example, the World Women's Day, I think it's in March. They meet. The last years we were in the residence of the German ambassador, who supports this program as well very intensively. So it's really an opportunity for young women talents to connect with the experienced ladies in the companies and learn from them. And let me perhaps add two aspects which are very important for us. There are two aspects which play an important role as well. One is that, as we all know, about 50% and perhaps a little bit more of all the consumers and clients of companies are female women. So it's important to get their voice heard as well. And the second aspect is that we see, not only in Korea, but in many other countries and Germany as well, we see that we have to mobilize more in the workforce because we already have the shortage of qualified workers. And to lose so many high qualified talents on the way and not giving them enough space to develop, that would be a waste. It's also an economic aspect besides all the perhaps social questions behind. Very much, Ausbildung is a program which is very close to our heart because it's so German. And here again, it is there to support the development of young talents and additionally of qualified talents for the country, in a country where we already see labor shortage. And once again, we know this from Germany. Today, we started the program 8 years ago. We just recruited our 8th batch. And at the moment, we have more than 600 trainees in the program. And the program has 70% they are in the job, and 30% in the colleges over about 36 months. And in between, as most of the participants are young men, they do their military service in between. And so we have about 600 trainees and more than 600 trainees. We have also about 280 people in the companies that have been trained to take care of the trainees. I think this is very special as well, because otherwise you find the young talents in an environment which is not always easy for them to integrate. So they have this kind of they are taken by the hand to get integrated, not only from the content side, but also from the how to feel, to get the company vibe. And I think which is also very important is that we have about 140 service centers now around in the country, and 120 trainees already graduated in our program in the first year. So we ramped it up so that every year now has more than we had in the past with Smart Pass. Now the question why we are focusing so much on the German car, truck and bus producers. The program was started with BMW and Mercedes, then MAN and Mercedes trucks joined, Volkswagen, Porsche joined. There's a reason we need a core group to go and start the program. Our idea is, as we see this also in many other countries, is to expand now in other sectors which are relevant, where lots of German companies are involved. The advantage is in the mechatronic sectors, it's car. We know the companies very well, and they felt the necessity to do something in the field. We would like to expand now, particularly for machinery, mechatronic, maintenance of machines. This is a sector we see large potential, and we're looking on this. And additionally, we also are in discussion to see how we can perhaps create an additional pathway by looking how we can integrate more with universities, perhaps with the German-speaking classes, to see if we can go in the direction of dual university studies, people at the university at the same time in the companies. We are just developing this. Hopefully we have more next year. We are at the moment, exactly, we are in discussion. We have already worked with some companies together, but it was more company specific when they need middle management support. We have done this already. We have also trained in the florist sector, have been working with the Association of Florists, flower part, and have certified them for certain things. So we have been already looking at different sectors, and we are at the moment also, once again, even expanding in more sectors. Yeah. First of all, it's important to see this is the issue. This is the issue, the most important one we have to tackle. I think we cannot emphasize this enough sufficiently. And then I think it is up to the companies to look what can they do internally and what they can do externally. When we look on what they can do internally, this starts by training the own people, from recycling up to switching off the electricity when it's not needed, offering possibilities to come to work by public transport. So there are lots of things they can do in this field. It's often linked to training and creating the opportunity to behave environmental friendly in the company. And then when it comes to kind of the external side, is that companies can see how far, and they're doing it already, how far can they put solar power on the roof. And we have seen investment in this field, modern investment. Energy efficiency in building and companies. Energy efficiency in machinery, important topic. There's technology, we can do this, and AI helps us, and the whole issue of e-mobility helps us there. We can then also look, where can we source renewable energy to use in my company, which means can I do a contract with an offshore wind power producer or with another company that produces lots of solar energy? How can I use this? Biomass is an important factor as well, particularly in the sector of agriculture. So there are lots of possibilities where companies can work on, and I think they do work on this in Germany, but also in Korea. And here again, when we exchange knowledge, we can go even faster and bolder, and further. Yeah, we see lots of consensus there. Korea has committed to be carbon neutral, CO2 emission neutral by 2050. Germany is aiming at 2045, but they're going in the same direction. We also have the Korean-German Energy Partnership, an agreement signed between MOTI on the Korean side and the German Ministry for Economic Affairs and Climate Action now, BMWK. In 2021, they said, let's work together. And there are 3 working groups, and 2 working groups are particularly important. One is on energy efficiency. Well, we come back to the point I mentioned before. And the other one is on renewable energy. And we have lots of exchange on the administrative level, company level, and also between academia. And even contact with students in the universities, all this. There are lots of activities. And we see the big consensus there of the government. Yeah, so I mentioned that I think critical thinker is important. It is this idea not only to learn by heart, but really to understand. And the best way to understand is by asking, why do I learn it? Where is it aiming at? What does it kind of lead me to? And I think this is particularly important today in a world where we have so much information, also in the social media, particularly for the younger generation. So it's important that they also ask when they see something, is this really the reality? Is there perhaps another side of the medallion to look at, the coin? Is there another position you can have with regard to this? So this critical thinking, I think it's very important also to create that things advance, go forward. And when it comes to examples, I mentioned social media is probably an important thing, that people ask critically, is this really the whole truth of the story? Is there perhaps another history? But it is also when people get within a company structure, they get from the boss, they get something that says do this and this. I think it's very important that they try to put the question in a context of knowing where does it lead to, because when I know where it leads to, I can do much better work. And if I don't understand the question, then I have to ask, I have to go back. I give a very easy, obvious example. When the boss, the director, the deputy director asks his manager to prepare a presentation for some clients, I think it's very obvious that this kind of this doesn't help the manager to prepare a good presentation. So he would have to ask, what is the presentation for? Is it a sales pitch, or is it rather a company presentation, just that the client gets to know us? Do I need to do it in English or in Korean? How many people will be in the room? Which level will be in the room? So all these questions we need every day. And while this is very obvious in my example, there are many other situations where I have the impression that people don't ask enough to get all the information. Where does it lead to? Where is it aiming to? And with this, I think processes would be much more efficient, and misunderstanding could be avoided. I think this is very, very important to see. First, the disclaimer. For me, of course, it is difficult to see how the manager often manage their company, because I'm not in there. And of course, much of the communication goes in Korean, so I wouldn't even see it in the room when they communicate with their team members. And then I think that we just have a country with a large variety of different leaders. We should not forget this country has achieved with a spirit of leadership in 70 years things that other countries have not achieved in 100 years. So there has been a very strong leadership in the reconstruction time. And I see often comparisons to German leaders after the Second World War, so we kind of started 10 years earlier, that build up companies from the scratch after this destruction of the Second World War, like the Korean leaders. And often it were very strong leaders, very focused and totally committed to grow the country, to grow the company within the country and growing the company with the country together. So I think this is very, very important to see, and I must say lots of respect for these leaders that did this. And then today we see, of course, many leaders that the second and third generation, and they are trained differently. They often have gone perhaps to the US or have experience by having studied in Germany or in Europe, in different countries. And so I see a change. However, I think in general, still we can say often companies are much more hierarchic, very much focused on one leader in the company, more and more the pyramid system. Perhaps it's also more difficult here to work in hubs without a clear hierarchy, clusters, assigning persons for different tasks. I think this is a little bit more difficult than what I've seen in other countries so far. But once again, there's the disclaimer. Of course, I'm not within the company itself. So I think, yeah, there are different styles, and I think we see a lot of change also now after the pandemic. Of course, we know that with a strong hierarchy, clear decision-making process, it is good to get things implemented, and you need someone who decides, and then you have a very good effect to re-steer the company, and which we have seen. I mean, there have been very strong Korean companies to adjust, although kind of, you know, they are big ships, but there's a decision on the top, and you get it triples down very, very fast. So this is, I think, one aspect. On the other side, I think today, even very good leaders, they cannot know everything. And this is part of what I said as well. You need this situation of self-reflection and reassessing, and you need good people around you, good advisors. And I think this is important that you involve people in the decision-making process and ask many people. That might sometimes take a little bit longer. However, it helps you to avoid then steering perhaps too quickly in one direction, which is not good. And besides this, many companies are consumer-oriented, companies that cater to the consumers. And we should not forget that these companies have often thousands of consumers which actually work for themselves. So why not getting them much more involved? And this is kind of the side of decision-making process. The second aspect is when you look for skilled workers today, you have to be an attractive company. And I see when you look on the surveys, an attractive company for young people is a company where they have a say and where they get involved. So this helps as well to get new talents to the company. So it's not only for decision making, for better decision making, but it's also for getting new talents in there.